these phones, whatever you're using. We're figuring out Zoom, and it's a facsimile of us being together. And in many significant and profound ways, we are together right now. I know we're not physically in the same space, but being together can mean a lot of different things. It can take a lot of different shapes. And, you know, we're exploring this shape right now because it's what we've got. And we so appreciate your willingness to try this experiment with us. And so this is, I think, our 5th Friday that we've done this, that we've gotten together. So just a quick sketch of what we're going to do and what we do here at Friday Reflections. We take 30 minutes or so, and I bring some examples from the world's wisdom traditions. You know, I'm a philosophy professor by trade. I teach mostly world religions, world mythology, and Asian philosophy. So that's where I spend a lot of my professional life and my personal life. And so when I get on stage or in front of a camera like this and I'm called to speak about things, that's what comes up. And naturally, we're all being buffeted by this storm, this COVID-19 pandemic, this stay-at-home order, this frightening and uncertain time. And we're looking for handholds, touchstones, you know, stones in the river that we can walk across to get to the other side. Even though we don't know what the other side is, I have no idea what the new world is going to be, but I know, and you know, that a new world is being born from the ashes of the old. We are witness to it. We are party to it. And so we're thinking through those kinds of challenges with a little help from insights from the great wisdom traditions that we often study together, those of us, you and I, who do get together and do this kind of work. So the theme today is letting go. We've had to let go of a lot. And at the end of our session today, just a quick program note, we are going to put a quick, what do we call them? We call them surveys, I think. Polls, that's it. We call them polls. We're going to put up a few questions right on the screen at the end of our session today, around 10:30, and we're going to ask for your feedback. We really rely on your point of view, your vision for what we could be doing with this tool, with this set of tools. And so we're going to ask you a few questions about future programming possibilities at the end of this session. So stick around for that. So letting go. Yeah, it's one of the great themes of a lot of the world's wisdom traditions, a lot of the world's spiritual teachers, Jesus, Buddha, Lao Tzu, the Stoics, etc. Talk about the wisdom of letting go. In Hinduism, it's sometimes called renunciation. And in Buddhism, maybe we often use the term non-attachment. We'll sift through some of those today. But you know, I got to tell you, I had a plumber here at the house yesterday. And normally a plumber coming to your house is kind of a bummer. Plumber, bummer. Because it means you've got a problem with some incoming pipes or some outgoing pipes. And it means it's going to cost you hundreds of dollars. And it's an interruption in your day. Well, none of that was the case yesterday, because when this plumber came over at 8 o'clock in the morning yesterday, I was elated. It's like a human being is coming to my house. I can actually talk to him. And the plumbing company sent me a document the day before, like, here's our protocols, wear a mask when he comes in, open some windows so there's air flowing through. Have you been sick lately? Have you traveled? I mean, we had to go through a screening just to get a plumber in the house. But anyway, it was cool because we've been having some kitchen sink problems. And as you know, the kitchen is the heart of the home, and the kitchen sink is the heartbeat of the kitchen. I mean, if the kitchen sink isn't working, you ain't got a kitchen. And our kitchen drain had been slowing down for weeks. And, you know, you fill up with water and just kind of wait. And it wasn't like literally clogged, but it just took forever to drain. It was increasingly annoying and debilitating because Lori and I love to cook anyway under normal conditions. And now, of course, that we're all locked in our houses, I mean, we're cooking all the time. So it was kind of stunning. You know, under the kitchen sink, I cleaned out all the stuff and got it ready for him. And under the kitchen sink, there was, you know, there's those drains that the two sinks connect, and there's the elbow thingy, and then the dishwasher thingy comes in from over here. I don't know plumbing. And it's all PVC piping, so he got out a saw and he just cut that sucker off. And it weighed like 40 pounds. It was so full. And he showed me the opening. He said, "Peter, come here, look at this." And I went and I looked, and it was completely clogged up. There was a tiny little, like pinky-sized opening at the bottom where drain water could flow. It was almost solid. I'd say 95% solid. The even tinier line coming from the dishwasher to the drain pipe was even worse. So caught it just in time before we had a massive clog and maybe a flood. Look, you know, every rabbi, every priest, every minister, every pastor, every teacher, every therapist, every professor is always looking for the analogy, the metaphor, the simile, the parable. And my mind just kind of works that way. It always has. I think analogically, I think metaphorically, constantly. It's how songs are written. It's how poems happen. It turns life into kind of an art project to think metaphorically. So I had already been working on this letting go theme for today, but then this happened yesterday. I thought, this is perfect. Here is a visual metaphor, a kind of viscerally stunning visual metaphor for what happens to any system, and a home is a system. What happens to any system when you don't let go? When you clog up, when you try to hold on, nothing that needs to get out can get out. And what happens under those conditions is when nothing that needs to get out can get out, then there's stoppage, and nothing that is trying to get in can get in. That's the sort of psycho-spiritual metaphor that just hit me like a ton of bricks. It's like when there is the refusal to release what needs to be released, what is asking to be released, when there is the refusal, you know, that death grip, like, I don't like change. I don't like learning new things. Why can't it be the way it used to be? When you're in that mode, you are clogged. You think you're strong, you think you're clever, you think you're in control because you're not letting go of anything. But what's happening is you're dying inside. There is the absence of circulation. There is stagnation. And from a sort of universal cosmic or spiritual sense, I don't know if you're a religious person or if you describe yourself as spiritual, if you're an atheistic materialist, I don't know, we're all over the spectrum, aren't we? In any of those ideologies, I think the metaphor has power, because we see then that when there is this holding on, it stops everything. Death is stopping, life is letting flow happen. And as we say yes to life, we must learn to let go. In all of the iterations that calls up for you, letting go of all kinds of different things that we're having to let go. You know, in Hinduism, in the Vedanta tradition, it's often translated as renunciation. And there is, even in devotional Hinduism, a title, the sannyasin. A sannyasin is a renunciant. In some sectors of Indian society, this is a person who, usually in the last stages of life, who has let go of everything. They've changed their name. They're not home anymore. They're not with family anymore. They take off all the labels of career, of identity. They go into the forest. They sit alongside the river. They spend all day in meditation and prayer. They throw it all off. So I don't think one need go that far. And in fact, already in the ancient texts like the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, 2,000 years ago, Krishna is already kind of making fun of that extremist version of renunciation, and instead offers what kind of is a lot similar, a lot more like what Buddha will also teach, namely kind of a middle path. That renunciation really isn't about literally abandoning your life and going and living in the hills. That renunciation is a state of consciousness that one can practice in the middle of a comfortable middle-class life. Renunciation, then, is an inside job. This is how Buddha certainly teaches it, that we ought to walk the middle path between slavish attachment and egotism and absolute self-mortification and abandonment of all, I don't know, relationship with people and things. That the middle path, Buddha taught, is the path that leads to awakening, to enlightenment. And that's an important, I think, piece of advice for those of us who are, in the Indian term, householders, who have middle-class comfort and own a little bit of stuff, and yet we are very cognizant, aren't we, that we're not really in charge and that none of this really is ours. We're just borrowing it for a while. That comes up in the philosophy of Gandhi as well. You know, Gandhi jumping out of the 20th century. Mohandas K. Gandhi, we know him as Mahatma Gandhi, of course, this wonderful Indian figure who synthesizes so beautifully spiritual life and political life. And Gandhi fell in love with the Bhagavad Gita because for him, Krishna's teachings in the Gita were exactly, precisely tailored to what you and I go through, namely ordinary people. You know, we're not priests and we're not monks. I mean, I know we've been forced into a kind of hermitage. We're all cloistered away like little monks and nuns in our solitude that we didn't ask for and that we're having to learn to adapt to. But I think Gandhi was really caught by the Bhagavad Gita's message around these questions. As Krishna said in the Gita, you have the right to work, but you do not have the right to the fruits of work, the phala, the outcomes, the results. In other words, the counseling in the Gita, and Gandhi took this to heart, and then he put it into practice in the political arena, was you and I are charged with a sacred obligation, a sacred duty. We are in the field of action. We are already bound to act. I have to breathe. I have to eat. My nature drives me to action. And my moral sense of duty drives me to action as well, all of us. And for Gandhi then, there is a way to do that, to be fully engaged in the field of action while still practicing renunciation, letting go of the outcome, letting go of the result, not doing the work to get a certain result, but doing the work because it is our work to do, because that's why we're alive, to participate together in the gradual healing of the world, to show up more awake. That's the work. Now, I might be planting a tomato garden right now in my yard, but I have to practice non-attachment to this vision I have, which is a beautiful bushel basket full of awesome homegrown tomatoes. I might not get that. I intend that, but intention is different than attachment. So as I plant my tomato garden, I have to let go of the egoic demand that I better get that basket of tomatoes or this is all a waste of time. I don't get to say that. I can just engage with my environment. I can make sure the soil is right. I can make sure the seeds are right, the plants are right, the water is right. And all of those conditions I participate in. I co-create with nature, but I don't grow the tomatoes. The tomato plant grows the tomatoes. All I can do is help create the conditions in which the tomato plant can give rise to its innate potential. And look how foolish it is in that example to cling to an outcome, to demand that there be a particular outcome. That's a recipe for suffering. That's what the Buddha taught, that dukkha or suffering comes from egoic demands, insistence, and the illusion of control, the illusion that I'm in charge. But we have to be careful here as we try to practice letting go, as we try to practice non-attachment, as we try to practice renunciation. Let's not be confused here. Renunciation is not the same thing as not caring. It's not the same thing as not trying. It's not the same thing as not having intentions, clear intentions. It's not the same thing as disconnection or apathy or defeatism or fatalism. I am going to set intentions. I am going to envision growth and creativity and production. I'm going to engage. I'm going to take everything that the universe took shape as in me, and I'm going to offer it up in the consciousness of play and in the consciousness of service. And as the Bhagavad Gita teaches, when we show up that way, knowing that I'm not really in charge, but I am an instrument through which Brahman, through which ultimate reality plays. You know, religious people talk like this too. That great St. Francis prayer, God, make me an instrument. When I walk into a room, let me be your presence. Let me, tell me what you want me to say. And so people of faith in the theistic traditions tend to put it that way in terms of a deity. But in a pantheistic or non-theistic system, you might just simply say that I'm going to get out of God's way and let God come through me, or I'm going to get out of Tao's way or Brahman's way and let the universe show up as me. And that's going to require me letting go and getting this ego mind with its limited sense of possibilities kind of out of the way. Here's a thing that jumps into my mind: surfing. I grew up on the beach in Ventura, and I grew up surfing, and it was my life for many, many years, for decades. And when a surfer is riding a wave, you don't own the ocean. You don't own the wave. You don't control the wave. You have no say. Most surf trips are a failure, right? You drive down to the beach and the waves are crap, or it's blown out, or they're super tiny, or whatever. But boy, you just keep going and going and going. And on that day when the waves are breaking beautifully and the wind is light and everything, all the conditions are aligned, you paddle out and you get in that lineup and you paddle with the wave and you try to catch the wave. And when you're riding the wave, the last thing you want to do is like, man, this is great. I wish I could capture this moment and freeze it forever. And boy, I would really love to have a perfectly recorded memory of this. And then later I could watch it again. And then 30 seconds later, the ride is over and you weren't even there. You're up here, craving, clinging, attaching, memorializing, grasping, and ultimately suffering. You've experienced this so many times in your life. The moment you say, this is perfect, I wish I could grab this, it slips through your fingers. So renunciation is the consciousness of not trying to capture anything for possession, but to finally really be present. That's the irony, is that when I let go, I receive so much more. It's a dirty trick, this business of grasping. We think we're holding on to possessions, but when you're in the consciousness of grasping, you have nothing. But when you're in the consciousness of openness, you have everything. This paradox is built into all of the spiritual teachings. Only when you let go do you receive. Only when you forget about yourself and love the other are you loved. Only when you give do you receive. This is the wisdom of letting go, of renunciation. And when we say yes to letting go, when we loosen our grasp, when we give up the illusion that we are in control, we are free. We become free. We are open. We become powerful, not egoically powerful, but power and effectiveness course through us. The way drain water can now run through my kitchen sink drain because it is letting go. You can have circulation or you can have stagnation. And I think you recognize just viscerally what life requires, what life is defined by, that affluence, that circulation, that flow. And that can only occur when we learn how to let go. And by the way, that's how circulation increases. You want more? Let go of more. Isn't that a paradox? Doesn't that just sound like crazy talk? But it's easily experimented with. Try it. Try starting to let go of things in your life. Start trying to give things away. What a great gift it is to give to your children and your grandchildren, to empty out your garage. So that when you pass away, they don't have to do it. And to just let all of that go. And as your home begins to open up, as your heart begins to open up, there's a sense of freedom, a sense of feeling of power that is priceless, worth way more than that stuff that you were holding on to. One last voice I want to turn to, and that is the voice of Stoicism. The Stoics were first century philosophers, and the two most famous names are Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius. I'll start with Marcus Aurelius. He was the emperor of Rome for a time, and a general and the leader of an army. And while he was on a military campaign along the Danube River, he kept a diary. He never intended to publish this book. It was just his kind of thoughts to himself. And we've come to call this book Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. It's one of the great philosophical classics of the world. So here's a few passages on these themes that we've been thinking through this morning. Marcus Aurelius says, frightened of change, but what can exist without it? Can you take a hot bath and leave the firewood as it was? Eat food without transforming it? Can any vital process take place without something being changed? Obviously, they were heating their bathwater with firewood back then. Yeah. He goes on, nature takes substance and makes a horse, like a sculptor with wax, and then melts it down and uses the material for a tree, then for a person, then for something else, each existing only briefly. It does the container no harm to be put together and none to be taken apart. And finally, one last one from Marcus Aurelius. Constant awareness that everything is born from change. You can hear him talking to himself in these passages, right? Just gets at it. I don't know if you journal, but this is just him journaling. He gets out his journal. He just writes this sentence fragment. Constant awareness that everything is born from change. The knowledge that there is nothing nature loves more than to alter what exists and to make new things like it. All that exists is the seed of what will emerge from it. You think the only seeds are the ones that make plants or children? Go deeper. What about this time of pandemic, of stay at home, of sacrifice, of letting go, of doing without? What about this time is seeds for what is being born? I can't see it. I don't think you can see it either. But it's happening. Things are being born. And I think about my poor, dear friends in the music business who run music performance venues in the performing arts. in the restaurant and bar business and all the supporting industries that rely on those performance and entertainment spaces, they're facing one of these times. Their entire way of life is disappearing, and no one sees the end yet. And it's so painful, but it's so vivifying to, at least in your, through your tears, to turn your gaze toward what is being born. And too many times in our life, we've experienced this. 5 years from now, maybe some of us will be looking back and going, wow, 2020 was really a time of chaos and loss. But in a way, a lot of cool stuff got born that I'm now thriving within. How can we see that now in 2020? But in 2025, we'll have a whole new way of looking at this terrifying time. One last line from Epictetus, the other great Stoic voice. He puts it this way: content yourself with being a lover of wisdom. Content yourself with being a lover of wisdom, a seeker of the truth. Return again and again to what is essential and worthy. And I think you and I know that what is essential and worthy cannot be destroyed. We use words like love, truth, wisdom, that which is. And we know that on the other side of this, if we practice stillness, if we let go, if we open up and allow what is leaving to leave and what is arriving to arrive with a sense of trust, grace, and stillness in our hearts, we just might make it through this. So let's turn it over to the polling process now. Simona is about to put up some polling questions, and please help us out. Either touch your screen or use your mouse. Answer these questions for us while I play a little polling music for you. All right. So it looks like we have the polling results up now. That is fantastic. So pretty strong showing on the 12 agreements, the 4 agreements. I'll add 8 more. No, the four agreements. Oh, that's a fantastic topic. So yeah, we'll look into scheduling something like that. Interesting response on if the county allowed Oasis to open. A third of you saying yes, I'll come in if the county okays it. A slightly bigger number, 43%, would hold back. I would not be an early adopter. And then 26, I don't know. So it looks like we have a lot of uncertainty around that question. Boy, I hear that. And then on the free virtual social gathering, no. All my stuff in the house is from IKEA. Nice, Simona. You should try stand up. That's pretty funny. So you're like, people don't want it. You don't want people to see the IKEA furniture, is it? Okay, got it. Anyway, thank you all for participating in that poll. We really, really appreciate it. It does help us shape and craft future programs that make sense for you and that are doable by us and that matter. So looks like we're just about out of time here, and so thank you all again. We will put this has been recorded, so we'll put this video up on the San Diego Oasis YouTube channel. Are you on YouTube? I bet you are. Go to the San Diego Oasis YouTube channel. Subscribe. There's really a lot of great little videos there on how to use Zoom better, and not to mention all kinds of great content that Oasis teachers have created. And they're putting the videos of these Friday reflections up there as well. And when you're on YouTube, click on over to me, Peter Bolland TV. I have a YouTube channel too, and I would love it if you would subscribe to that as well. You'll find not only videos of me playing guitar, but I'm uploading over 20 now, I think almost 25 philosophy lecture videos that I have been creating for my Southwestern College World Religions and Asian Philosophy students. So if you want to hear 15, 20-minute little lecture blocks on all kinds of topics in Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism, Judaism, Christianity, and soon to come Islam, I'll be recording those this next week. Go to Peter Bolland TV on YouTube. So anyway, that's it for today. Thanks for joining us. Tell your friends, the more the merrier, and we will see you all somewhere, and for sure right here next Friday at 10 a.m. for our next installment of Friday Reflections. See you on the other side.